Hello again, this is Maridee with nsquared Solutions, sitting with Dr. Neil, and today we're going to talk some more about the Surface device and some of its basic capabilities and some of the development techniques. So, Dr. Neil.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, good. So, what are some of the basic capabilities of the Surface unit?
Okay, so I guess we've talked a little bit about some of these already, but when you start building an application for Surface, you need to think about the fact that it's multi-touch, and it's massive multi-touch. So it's not just like 2 or 3 or 10 touches. Like if you think about Windows 7 is designed for single user touch, so you're not really going to get more than 10 fingers touching it at a time, whereas Surface is designed for multiple users as well as touch, and so you could have 40-50 touch points on the application at the same time potentially, plus objects that are placed on the table. It's a table, people put objects down like a glass or car keys or cards, whatever, on the table, so you can have lots of contact points. So multi-touch, multi-user. The fact that it's a vision system means you can recognize objects that are placed down, and those objects, fingers, tags, or other types of objects. You can, using the core API or using the lower level API, actually get access to the raw images. So then you can start doing your own image recognition. So that's another facet of it. And then of course you have quite a really a rich stereo sound system built into the Surface unit that enables you to do some interesting things with sound. So you've got all these capabilities, which when you add up really changes the type of application you can build. It's not a standard desktop application, which is the biggest mistake most developers make when they first come to Surface, is they try and build a desktop touch application.
So what are some of the best ways to showcase the great features of Surface?
I think, start off by really thinking hard about the fact you've got people sitting at each side of the unit. So you want to think about a 360-degree UI, a 360-degree user interface. It should be just as great an experience when I'm sitting at this side of the table as when I'm sitting at the other side, or when I'm sitting at one of the ends of the table. It shouldn't be, a downgraded experience because I sit at the wrong side of the table. It's a table, I sit down at it, I should be able to access it from any side. So that takes advantage of multi-user. You should think about not just touch, but the fact the vision system recognizes objects. So when you put something down on the unit, and your application should be picking up what those things are and reacting to them. And it can be a reaction that, if you don't know what it is, maybe you move the content that you're displaying on the screen out of the way. So if someone puts a book down on the unit, the content that people are interacting with slides away from the book so that people can still interact with it. So even if you don't know necessarily that it's a known object or an item that is, to be reacted with, there's other things you can do that make the application feel more intelligent, feel smarter.
Cool, very cool. So what is the difference between the core layer and the WPF layer?
Right, so in Surface development you can program against the core, or you can program against WPF. Now, most of what I teach and what we talk about, and actually what we develop ourselves here, is in WPF. The WPF layer makes life so easy for us as developers. If you know WPF, you can program Surface, the technology anyway. That's the easy bit. The hard bit is getting the ideas and building the 360 UI and thinking about all the interaction models. The easy bit is the technology. So the WPF layer is really a very simple access point or way of accessing Surface. WPF provides a set of controls. It provides the ability to manipulate contact points or touch points on the unit. So it gives us a lot of ready-made abstraction to build on Surface. Core lets us go down a level. Now Core, most people who program in Core will use something like XNA to do rendering. And when you're using something like XNA to do the rendering, you're really in control of everything. So one of the disadvantages of WPF is all the contacts come in the main thread of execution in the rendering thread. And so you have performance issues. If you want much higher performance, you probably want to receive the contacts in worker threads. And the only way to do that is to go down to core. If you go down to core and you start using XNA, for example, you then have control over the entire rendering. I say you have control, you have to do the entire rendering yourself. So there is no kind of rendering engine. I mean, XNA is a rendering engine, but there's nothing that's abstracted in terms of controls for you. So you have to build your own, you have to do your own hit testing, you have to do a lot of the hard work yourself, but you get more control, so there's benefits there. You also get access to some of the features of Surface that you don't have, you know, directly in WPF. So if you want to get hold of the raw camera images, for example, you can do that. So, you know, you determine what you want to do. If you're building fast-paced type games, you may want to go to XNA, and XNA is really a game developer kit. If you're building what is probably the majority of Surface applications that are rich interactions, you know, with some kind of business focus, so some of the stuff we've worked on like real estate, some of the things we've worked on like restaurants, education applications, they all work very well in WPF.
Okay.